Hello, today I'm going to be talking about Taoism and achieving perfection, one of its core goals. I'm going to be talking about its relevance in society, as well as how the study of Taoism assists in the understanding of the roles of nature and spirituality, and connecting nature with spirituality and the importance of balance. Taoism's origins are murky. However, there are legends of a prominent figure by the name of Lao Tzu, who was a legendary figure born in the royal city of Luoyang. Lao Tzu worked as a librarian until he became tired and bored of his job, and he decided he was going to travel and spread the practice of Taoism among Asian cultures, specifically Taiwan, China, and the Koreas. One of the interesting things about Taoism is its inclusiveness of women in its spiritual leadership roles. Some of the Taoistic beliefs is the union with Tao, which we'll cover a little bit later. Internal alchemy, which are yoga like practices similar to Hinduism that focus on movements and practices of breathing and body alignment to better become one with nature and the universe around you. Physical alchemy, Taoists noted that gold did not tarnish, rust, or degrade, so they mixed it in with elixirs to attempt to extend their life. This often led, unfortunately, and likely to death. Among many people. It originally was not organized. It focused in nature rather than in a temple, and it is polytheistic in nature. Lao Tzu eventually became a deity. After his life ended, he ascended into the heavens. And Taoism is influenced by art and culture around it and influences that same art and culture. We're going to talk about two important locations, but focus on one. The first one that we'll talk about is the White Cloud Monastery, which is located in Beijing, and it is a significant site of prayer and spiritual practice among Taoists. The one we're going to focus on, though, is the Maitsu Island Temple, where they honor the goddess Matsu. So, like we talked about earlier, Taoism started in nature, and its teachings were done where people could gather and feel the presence of the spiritual in the world around them. Maitsu Island is prominent with its female portrayals of gods and deities in Taoism. And this is where the goddess Matsu is worshipped. The island is absolutely gorgeous with temples and many different tourist destinations. And its economy is heavily reliant upon tourism, as well as the pilgrimage of the practitioners of Taoism to the island to worship and pray. Because of this, the island is influenced by the practice of Taoism, so it focuses on preserving nature. There are beautiful beachfronts as well as locations of nature, forest, pasture, and field on the island that link into its original goal of practicing spirituality connected with the nature around them. The Tao Te Ching is one of the most translated books in the world, and you can find that and many of the writings included in it in museums and other locations in and on Maitsu Island. And there are dozens of holy sites located on the island, and transportation will take you to any of them. Buses, taxis, and similar services to Lyft and Uber through the Chinese, Taiwanese, and Korean governments. Some of the important teachings that you'll see on Maitsu Island in its museums and other locations of interest are the Tao Te Ching, which is one of the most important books in Taoism. It includes shamanistic writings and references to Tao. Tao is the ethereal force that can't be quantified. It is and it is not. Taoist practice believe that if you can name it, it is not Tao. Tao is unnameable and present in everything, both man-made and natural around us. Taoism was also enriched by one of its most prominent writers, Zhuangzi. His writings contain whimsy and poke fun at people's anger and selfishness. A core teaching of Taoism is the avoidance of action that is unnecessary or spontaneous without thought. So that would involve anger. Overall, even though Taoism was nearly wiped out in 1218 due to the emperor of the time, inciting a book burn of the Taoist material, it did survive. Taoism continues to be an influential spiritual practice among many of the Asian regions, specifically Taiwan and South Korea, included in that with China. The continued pursuit for enlightenment and spiritual perfection from Taoism is driven by its non confrontational nature, and it is fueling the appeal and desirability among many of the populations in these Asian cultures and regions, as well as Western practitioners. Continued resurgence of Taoism will help it regain footing and traction among those wide populations, especially with young people. And the continued support of locations like Maitsu Island and its temple and the White Cloud Monastery will help the monks and nuns keep their religion alive, supporting its industry and supporting its resurgence into the world around us. For my works cited, I used primarily Experiencing the World's Religion, 8th edition, which was our textbook for this course, as well as the Maitsu Island Tourist Resort, the People's Government of China.